In today's video, I want to talk to you about developing junior players. Now, I have a strong background in working with high-performance junior players, and I get asked questions a lot about how you should go about developing a junior player. So right now, just after the Australian Open 2015, I thought this would be a great time to talk about this topic because two players that I worked with in the past did really well at the Australian Open, and there were some interesting stories behind how these players were developed. Now, the first player you're probably familiar with is Madison Keys. Now, I was never Madison Keys' head coach. I never changed her technique or anything of that nature. But I did practice with her a lot when I worked at the Everett Tennis Academy. Madison was about 14 years old at the time. She had a coach, her name is Mandy. I forgot the last name, but her coach did an excellent job of developing Madison and building the foundation that is now making Madison so successful. So I hit with her very often. And what I found very interesting was that Madison was hitting the ball incredibly hard for a 14-year-old. Now, I had practiced also with some of the other top-level 14-year-olds in the country, like Sasha Vickery at the time, but Madison was hitting the ball a lot harder. The interesting part was that Madison was missing a lot of shots, so she was very erratic at the time. But she was all the time encouraged to continue to hit the ball hard because the goal was long-term development. The goal was to get her to where she is now, playing in the semifinals of a Grand Slam tournament. Okay, so eventually these hard shots started going in more consistently as she got older, and now we're seeing those results. At the time when she was 14, she certainly lost to players that are now far behind her because of this, because at a young age you simply don't win tournaments a lot by hitting the ball very hard. However, as you get older and you want to be a professional player, you have to be able to hit the ball really hard, and a lot of players struggle with this. When they did not hit the ball hard in junior tennis and they won a lot, they find it extremely difficult to change that mentality once they get older. So with Madison, for me, it was very obvious at that age that she was going to be a real star in this game if she stayed healthy and continued on her path. She also had something that is, I believe, very difficult to teach, or she has that, and that's the kind of killer instinct. She was really out there on the court to win matches, to improve. She was just all business. And that's something I believe she was probably born with or that developed at a very young age. Very difficult to teach this, but she certainly has that kind of a killer instinct, and she has belief. The belief is extremely important, especially in women's tennis. The belief that she belongs to the top of the game. And I think we're now kind of seeing all of that come together. In terms of technique, I think she has a phenomenal serve, a very solid backhand, and she makes a lot of points with her forehand, but her forehand is usually only very good when she has time. She has a larger backswing, and she gets a little bit in trouble sometimes when she has little time to hit that forehand. But overall, a great technique, and we see all of the important ingredients coming together. Great technique, phenomenal athleticism. I haven't talked about this yet. She had that from a young age. I'm sure she worked very hard for it, but she was also just blessed with good genetics for this. She has incredible athleticism for this sport, and that now coming together with a mental toughness and belief, I think that she will probably win several Grand Slam titles in her career at least. Now, the second player I want to talk about is a girl named Carina Witthöft from Germany. She is actually someone I developed heavily in terms of her technical development. I started working with her at the age of 14. We worked together for almost 2 years on a daily basis, and I completely rebuilt her game. Now, the interesting part here of the story is that at 14, Carina was winning everything when I started working with her. She was a German national champion, ranked #1 in Germany. She had done very well internationally. She played against some professional players where she did well already at the age of 14. So she was winning everything. Nevertheless, after an analysis, I encouraged her to change her forehand grip, to completely rebuild her forehand and her serve essentially, because they were not fit for the professional game. Karina had a severe Western forehand grip, which is very problematic, especially in the women's game, where players are not playing with as much spin, the balls are staying lower, and it's very difficult to be successful with that kind of an extreme forehand grip. And her serve was also mediocre at best, so I encouraged her to change her forehand grip as well as her serve. And she thought about it for a little while, and her reaction, I think, was quite interesting. She left the room after I showed her the analysis. I told her that at the time there was only one player in the top 50 in the world with a severe forehand grip, and that was Nadia Petrova, and her forehand really was a weakness. So I told her that and showed her all the video. She left the room, thought about it, and she had all sorts of tournaments lined up, wild cards for professional tournaments, and so forth. And then she came back after about 15 minutes with a sad look on her face, but she looked at me and said, you know, let's start tomorrow. I'm canceling all my tournaments. We'll start tomorrow. Keep in mind, I told her that this would take at least 6 months. I told her that this would be very difficult. Changing a forehand grip is probably the most difficult thing you can do with a high-performance player. It takes a long time until you get used to that new grip. So I really told her she would lose a lot of matches for about 6 months, and it would be a painful process. But she came back and said, let's start tomorrow. So I think that kind of shows also what she's made of. She really, she did have that long-term mindset. It turned out to be quite difficult for her. After about 3 months, she started playing some tournaments, and she lost to girls, which previously she beat easily. So getting through this phase was quite difficult for her. She had several losses that were tough for her self-confidence. But now, several years later, she's really benefiting from the changes. She has a solid forehand grip. She hits a powerful forehand. The swing is still a little bit too large in my opinion. It's not quite perfect, but it's definitely a solid forehand, and before that forehand was relatively weak under pressure. So the serve also improved dramatically, and the lesson that I want to share here with you is essentially that you need to invest in long-term development with a junior player. Nowadays, it's all about winning, instant gratification. Players look at rankings way too early and are concerned about getting sponsorship deals and all these things at a very young age, and that leaves no room for really developing a player. With Karina Witthöft, it was really actually a difficult process because she was used to that mindset as well. She was used to that mindset of winning is everything, and getting her in that developmental mindset really was difficult. And it was a challenging time for her as a player and for myself as a coach. In the end, it did pay off, but you have to be aware of what you're getting into when you're doing something like this. In the long run, you will benefit, the junior player will benefit if you make these changes and you invest the time, but it's very important to have the right attitude and set the expectations in the right way, which can often be difficult.
Thank you for watching this video. To watch all of our free videos, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel below.